Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1985, and we are still in Spellbreaker. When we last left off, we made it to, where are we? To the Enchanter's Retreat. Here we can find Belboz. Belboz is from the second game, from Sorcerer, if you have forgotten. We saved him last time. I did want to save here, not only because the timing was right, but also because Belboz has a chance to not help you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in Belboz help, and we are going to see if Belboz will in fact ask a question that I have an answer to. There's a possibility he doesn't, or at least so I'm told. I haven't seen it happen yet, though. Belboz, help. Belboz looks at you suspiciously. You were here a few days ago. Or rather, someone who resembled you strongly enough to be your twin was here. This being betrayed its true nature, however, as it did not know facts which would be trifles to even the rawest apprentice. It fled before I could capture it. Prove to me that you are truly yourself and answer me a question. Which one of our esteemed colleagues was fabled for his skill at double Finucci? So, he's going to ask a question that is on one of the cards that came with the game. Remember that from our introduction, there were 6 cards. So there are 6 questions he can ask that you will know the answer to. Like I said before, though, there's apparently a chance that he will ask a question not on those cards. But this one is on one of those cards, so we're going to say the proper answer. That would be Forburn. Good. I knew it was you all along. What may I do for you? He fumbles in his pouch for a moment. First, let me give you this. He hands you a wrought iron key. It may prove useful. Let's take a look, make sure we got it. We do have it. We have so many cubes. What is that? 3, 4, 9, 12? I have 12 cubes. So many cubes. But we can try to ask Belboz for help again, but really the key is all that you really need here. The great mage looks tired. That is beyond my power, he says. I have given up worldly affairs. My time is past. I am old, and the world is now in the care of my successors. I am convinced you will not fail. Glad to have your support. Wish I had your help. But he did not do that. Okay, so that's basically all that we can do from him. He asks what he can do for us and then doesn't really help. So let's go ahead and learn Blorple. And we're going to Blorple the No Plaque cube and return to No Place. All right, from here we're going to go east, and we've made it to the Inner Vault. This is a bare concrete chamber that looks like the inside of a vault. The room is filled with unimaginable treasure. Gold and jewels are strewn everywhere. Coffers burst with coins, and stacks of rare paintings lean against the walls. Beautifully ornamented vases and glassware are carelessly stacked in corners. There is a door on the north side of the room whose lock mechanism is visible. The door is closed in rock, and you guessed it, we're going to explode the door. Bet you thought we were going to use the key, didn't you? Nope, let's explode it. The mechanisms whir madly for a few moments, and then the door swings ponderously open. We got it! Let's go ahead and learn Blorple, Jindak, and Jindak. So 1 Blorple, 3 Jindaks. That should do us. We get it all done. Let's go ahead and save here. And then we will do what we need to do. Let's go ahead and head north here. As you enter the outer vault, the vault door swings inexorably shut. And we've made it to the outer vault. You are in a large, bare concrete room. There are 2 piles on the floor. The first contains the ×1 cube, the ×2 cube, the ×3 cube, the ×4 cube, the ×5 cube, and ×6 cube. The second contains 7 through 12. You could say like X or time. I just think of it as times. An exit is to the north is a closed iron door. To the south is the inner vault. Its steel door is closed. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this kind of very specifically, right? You can't save inside the vault, which is why we saved outside. And the one that we want to actually get is random. So we're going to do things kind of complicated in order to get this done. My dog is very active in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear her. But let's go ahead and get x1, x2, x7, and x8. Okay. Oh, I messed that up. Let's restore a bit. First I need to put all in zipper. There we go. We're going to put everything that we got in a zipper. Now I'm going to save and overwrite that save. Okay, so let's go north, and then we will do this again. We will get x1, x2, x7, and x8. So we got all of those. Now we're going to Jindak. Both piles of cubes glow with a faint blue glow. Both piles seem to glow with identical brightness. Nothing else is glowing. Okay. That's what we want, identical brightness. The guide in front of me literally says, if you get anything other than identical brightness, restore your save and try again. It's too complicated. Okay. So we're going to take x3 and x4. And then we are going to put x1 and x2 on first pile. Okay, let's Jindak. Both piles of cubes glow with a faint blue glow. However, the second pile is glowing more brightly. Nothing else is glowing. Okay, so since the second pile is glowing more, we can see what we can do. Let's go ahead and take x1, and then we will put x7 on first pile. Then we will Jindak again. Both piles of cubes glow with a faint blue glow. However, the second pile is glowing more brightly. Nothing else is glowing. Suddenly, an alarm fairy appears in the treasury. It carries a big gong, which it begins to pound incessantly, and it yells at the top of its lungs, "There's a thief here! Hey, guards! Thief! Nasty thieving thieves here! Come capture the thief!" The din is tremendous. I believe that what I want is the x2 cube. And then we will, you can hear a key being inserted in the lock from outside. The alarm fairy thumps its nose at you derisively, and it's just screaming again at me. Let's go ahead and blorple x2 cube. All right, we got it. So yeah, this one's kind of complicated. Right, there's a guide and it's just like, if this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. But essentially, after I took the x3 and the x4 cubes and I put the x1 and x2 cube back, if the piles glowed evenly, then I would take the x1 and then x2, or sorry, I would take the x1 again and then put the x7 cube on the first pile, just like I did. But if the piles glowed evenly after I did that, then it's the x8. Otherwise, it's the 7. But since they didn't glow evenly, then it turned out to be the number 2. Like, it was just a process of elimination to figure out which one it was. And it's kind of a nightmare, if you ask me. But we can go ahead and save now that we're in the sand room. Sand room. A thin trickle of sand flows down from an exit in the ceiling of this circular room to a pile of sand on the floor. The walls of the room are glass, but you can see nothing through them. In the sand is a hole through which, oddly enough, no sand is pouring out. And once again, like, you had to have saved last time because I took exactly how many turns I needed to take in order to get out of there. Otherwise, I would have failed. Like, I don't always understand how you're supposed to know these things. But, okay. We're in the sand room. We can go down from here. But yeah, we had to do the process of elimination to figure out what cube it was. Yeah, and that was the way to do it. That's what we did. How you're supposed to figure all that out, like on your first try, you're not. It's designed to be a guess and check and figure out a system type thing. All right, anyway, we are in the dungeon cell. This is a luxurious cell, obviously for the imprisonment of a highborn or powerful person. Its rich hangings and heavily ornamented furniture speak of a prisoner whose comfort is important even during imprisonment. A massive oak cabinet dominates one wall. The massive cabinet is closed. The cell door is closed. All right, what we can do now is use our key, the one that Bell Boss gave us. You would think it would be the first thing that you see. No, it's this. All right, let's open the cabinet. And we got a vellum scroll. Let's go ahead and take the vellum scroll. And then we will, I think we just want to read it. Let's take a spell book from Zipper first. Okay. Let's learn Blorple twice. Like, this is once again getting a little complicated. We're not following the same rules that we were doing before. Okay. We learned Blorple twice. Then we're going to put spell book in cabinet. And the reason that we want to do that is because this spell book that we just put into the cabinet ends up being the moldy book that we got earlier in the game. Close the cabinet. Lock cabinet. Lock cabinet with key. I figured that was, it was unsaid. Like, that's what I wanted to do, but okay. Okay. So let's look at the inventory real quick. We need to remember that it's the x2 cube, the times 2 cube that I got this time. That's what I want to do. What we're going to do now is Resurov the door. The door bursts outward in an explosion of power. Immediately, you hear the shouts of guards and the rattle of weapons. This probably isn't good. Let's Blorple the x2 cube. And we're back in the sand room. I should point this out. I've kind of hinted at it kind of throughout the playthrough here. But like all these rooms that I go to when I Blorple a cube, most of them, if not all of them, I believe are like exit only rooms. Like you can't get back to them. Like if I go east from the sand room, I can't go west and get back into the sand room. You have to Blorple the cubes to get into these rooms. They've kind of hinted at that this whole time, but never really fully said it. Either way, from the sand room, I want to go up to the ruins room. This is the south end of a vast chamber filled with partially ruined structures. Here, the portico of a building is collapsing. The pillars holding it up are starting to crumble. One has recently fallen and smashed the pavement. The fall exposed and the rumble blocked a small channel filled with swiftly rushing water, which is rapidly inundating the area. You are in a small area not yet flooded. There is a sack here. Let's go ahead and get the sack. Open the sack. And we can get a flimsy scroll. The water has left only a tiny area dry. Let's go ahead and get the flimsy scroll. Then we will read the flimsy scroll. Gurgle spell, stop time. The spell is long and complicated. Get Burin from Zipper. We're going to need that. And then we are going to copy the flimsy scroll to the vellum scroll. The reason we didn't read it is because it's blank. You got a blank scroll, but vellum, right, was part of what we saw in the catalog. Almost everything that we talked about in the catalog has come up. So there's something. We'll get the flimsy scroll, copy the flimsy scroll to the vellum scroll. Okay. The water has covered the entire floor. Your feet are wet. Let's go ahead and empty zipper into sack. Okay, everything is in the sack now. We're going to put the flimsy scroll into the zipper. Are you figuring out a little bit what we're doing here? Because if you don't know, you don't know. But we're basically setting up the rest of the game. All right, remember Gurgle, we got that pretty early. All right, close the zipper. Drop the zipper. The water is up to your waist. So we're basically setting up what we went through already. Remember, we got the flimsy scroll with Gurgle in the zipper when we started. So now we're setting that up for someone else. Okay. Get magic cube from sack. Like that's right, isn't it? Yeah, it's just the magic cube. Okay. Do I still have a blorple? All right, I did have a blorple, and we made it to the magic room. This place is odd indeed. Nothing that you look at is what it seems. If you look at something carefully enough, it turns out to be something entirely different. The room is cluttered with objects and obviously hasn't been cleaned in a while. The floor is overgrown with grass and weeds, and rabbits have chewed them. There are bird nests around the ceiling and droppings here and there. A very untidy and unsettling place. Much of the walls, ceiling, and floor is covered in mirrors. There are empty, mirrorless square areas at north and south, and a round black emptiness to the east. Okay, let's go east. As you leave, the magic cube reappears in your hand. Mocking laughter echoes around you, and we've made it to the castle. This is the audience chamber. It is high and spacious, and every proportion and decoration is intended to highlight the throne that looms before you. The throne itself is bathed in light, but only featureless gray may be seen through the windows and skylights. We are going to wait here. Around the throne, a dark mist begins to coalesce. It thickens into the outline of a human figure sitting nonchalantly on the throne. You can see the ghost of a cloak and hood as well. All right, so we need to wait for that figure to show up. It has showed up. Let's attack it. That's not something you do very often in Infocom games. Just straight up say, attack it. But let's go ahead and attack. The shadow notices you. You force me to take precautions. The shadow gestures, and you are frozen in place, unable to move even your littlest finger. This figure speaks. It's been such a pleasure to follow your progress. Thank you for collecting the cubes. No! We're going to then wait around. I did want to freeze myself. That was apparently the plan. Your little finger is full of pins and needles. You could move it if you wanted. The figure waves its arms in the air. Before you, rolling and tumbling in a bath of light, are 4 cubes. When I gathered these and the Earth Cube, after searching tomes and questioning the wise about their whereabouts, I conceived my plan. I could not gather the remainder of the cubes, but to achieve my desire, they had to be brought together. Who better than you to act in my stead? We'll wait again. Your feet and hands feel as if they've been asleep, but you can move them. It was a simple matter to perturb the cubes. I had to make your simple magics flicker or fail. I knew this would set you on a quest, for I know you well. The 4 cubes disappear. The figure sits straight on its throne and removes its hood. You're looking at a shadowy, dark, and transparent version of yourself. Magic is a powerful force, the most powerful in the universe. But its exercise has its price. Each time a great mage performs a spell, some part of the power in that spell is lost in shadow. A great mage ultimately creates a shadow self that is dimly aware. The figure grins. You have become the most powerful wizard of all, and I, your shadow, have become very nearly as powerful as you. Let's wait this out a bit. Your arms and legs are free, but you still cannot speak or move your head. But why, you ask? Am I collecting the elemental cubes? It's easy to answer. I am not powerful enough. My existence is still but a shadow of your own. My desires are unfulfilled. I wish power over all creation. I wish to remold the universe in my own image and rule it. In such a universe, my merest whim would smash a star or slay a butterfly. You have brought me the tools of the remaking. The shadowy figure deftly takes the earth cube from the sack and sets it in the air between you, where it hangs motionless. I think we can wait one more time here. Time passes. You feel almost thawed, but your mouth feels full of cotton. The shadowy figure deftly takes the air cube from the sack and places it next to the earth cube. They disappear into a glowing line which appears between them. The shadowy figure places the fire cube and the water cube into the air, creating a square of glowing light. Let's wait some more. The freeze has worn entirely off. Your contact with the magic cube must have weakened it. 4 more cubes are placed above the square: the soft cube, the bones cube, the light cube, and the dark cube. A cube of light shimmers before you. The shadow is growing more excited, hopping around the structure to place the cubes. We'll wait some more. All the remaining cubes save one, the magic cube. Build another square. Then the shadow adds its own 4 cubes to make a second cube of light, which hangs next to the first. Okay, we'll wait some more. The shadow grabs the first cube of light and twisting, chanting, squeezing. The cube is compressed and thrust inside the second cube. The points of the inner and outer cube connect, and it begins to tumble, seeming to twist and distort as one face. Then another presents itself to you. The figure capers madly in front of its construction, laughing and giggling. It ignores you. Is he making like a tesseract thing here? Like a 4-dimensional cube? What's going on here? I'm kind of lost in the cubes. The shadowy figure deftly takes the magic cube from you and raises it high, thrusts it into the center of the tesseract. Called it tesseract, 4-dimensional cube. Cascades of light pour forth, blindingly bright, but you can still see the magic cube at the center. The shadow is growing more solid, no longer transparent and dark. Chortling gleefully, it prepares to jump into the hypercube. That is what we have been waiting for. That line, it prepares to jump into the hypercube. All right, let's gurgle the shadow. As you cast the spell, the vellum scroll vanishes. This spell stops time in a large area, so directing it at a specific object is unnecessarily precise. Pretty sure I had to do that, though. The shadow freezes in mid-leap. You can tell the spell won't hold for long in this magically charged atmosphere. We're going to go ahead and get the magic cube out of that. You tug and pull at the cube, trying desperately to remove it from its place in the center of the tesseract. With your last reserve of strength, you free it. Let's put the sack in the hypercube instead. You push the sack into the hypercube, where it hangs unsupported. Time resumes its forward flight. The shadow, now as solid as a real person, performs a backflip into the tesseract. No, it screams. Stop! Fool, you've destroyed me. You've destroyed magic itself. All my lovely plans. Now glowing as brightly as the construction it made, the figure approaches the center. It grows smaller and smaller, and just before it disappears, the hypercube vanishes with a pop, and the magic cube melts into your hand like an ice cube. You find yourself back in Belwit Square. All the guild masters and even Belboz crowding around you. A new age begins today, says Belboz after hearing your story. The age of magic is ended, as it must. For as magic can confer absolute power, so it can produce absolute evil. We may defeat this evil when it appears, but if wizardry builds it anew, we can never ultimately win. The new world will be strange, but in time it will serve us better. Your score is a 600 out of a possible 600 in 446 moves. This puts you in the class of scientist. Not magical at all. Alright, would you like to restart the game from the beginning, restore a saved game position, or end this session of the game? Luckily, it doesn't crash on me like other stuff has, but that is the game. That is Spellbreaker done. We got a perfect score. We have destroyed magic. You thought that we were out to save magic, understandably. But no, that's not what we did. We destroyed it once and for all, and everybody seems happy about this. But what about the beer? But that is the game played, and with the game played, it's time to talk about how it holds up today. Playing the game today, I did have fun playing Spellbreaker, but with that said, one of the main reasons that I had fun playing Spellbreaker is that I had a guide in front of me kind of always telling me what to do. If I didn't have that, the game would have been a lot less fun and a lot more frustrating for me. Even if you have beaten the game and played it all the way through, unless you have it memorized, there's a lot of things in this game that would kill you probably a couple times first before you figured out, right, this is how I have to do it. This game is meant to be one of the more difficult Infocom games, definitely. Keep in mind that this is not only the conclusion to the Enchanter trilogy, but because Enchanter itself could be seen as like Zork 4, Spellbreaker is essentially the end of a 6-game arc of story. And as a result, it feels like they expected you to have played all 6 of those games, well, all 5 of the previous games, before playing this one. And so you had to have that skill set ready. I would say that most Infocom games, not necessarily all of them, but most Infocom games have like one puzzle or so that is kind of difficult. And even if you know the solution, your first thought's going to be, how was I supposed to know how to do that solution? And the answer is usually kind of guess and check, or think outside the box. Maybe you'll figure it out. And like I said, most games have 1 or 2 of those. I feel like Spellbreaker had about 10. Like, there were just so many where I'm like, I don't know how you're supposed to figure this out. And a lot of the time, you don't have a lot of actual moves. You don't have a lot of time to figure it out. So this game, probably more than any others, would require a lot of saves, testing, retesting, trying to figure out, okay, what are these cubes? And like, even figuring out how to label them, how to use Blorple on them, falling from like the first area just to get caught by a rock, right? A giant condor to take you to a tree to get more stuff. And, oh, there's a cube, but don't grab it yet because you won't have enough time. Sure, you have a stop time spell, but don't save it. Use it when you try to climb up a mountain and the game tells you not to, because that way you can climb over boulders during an avalanche, right? There's so many like little things like that, but it kind of just adds up to you not necessarily knowing what you're going to do. I believe at some point we got a fly spell, and I think I counted about 5 different spots where flying could have been used to solve the problem, but that wasn't the one time you needed to do it. Like, there's a lot of that. Just, sure, there's multiple solutions to this one, but if you guess the wrong one, you won't know that it was wrong for a while. There was a lot of that, I felt like, going on in the game too. Overall, I would say that the game is good, but hard. I would absolutely recommend having a guide in front of you to play this game. Just have somebody tell you what to do. Maybe you can explore around a bit, but anytime you kind of deviate from what the guide says, like turn for turn, go ahead and drop a save and see what happens. You can still explore around, but, you know, this game doesn't really reward exploration the way that some of the other games did. It's very much, this is what you need to do in order to win. And once again, it's not apparent very often what it is you need to do until, like I said, until you actually try it and hope for the best. The one that comes to mind right now is I had to freeze that little trickle of water at the bottom of the oubliette so that I could climb up and out of the oubliette. And in my mind, I would not have thought of that because freezing that little trickle of water wasn't going to then give me enough water to climb out. So even if I thought, like, I have a freeze spell, but what is that going to do? I don't know if I would have eventually figured out or tried it, but that's one of the ones where the solution, even if you kind of know what it's going to be, doesn't always make sense, or at least apparent sense, at least to me. But like I said, I enjoy Infocom games. I like this one. It's not the best, it's not my favorite, and it's hard not to compare it to the others in the series. I would say that the first three Zorks were still a lot more fun than the Enchanter trilogy, kind of as a whole. And this one, I think, was probably the weakest of the three, simply because it was so difficult, because they just kind of sent you, like the Shadow said, just kind of sent you on a quest without you really knowing what you were doing or why you were doing it, right? Vaguely, you had the assumption that you would be saving magic, but really at the end of it, you had the first spot of, here's a villain, right? He did something to stop everybody in the Enchanters Guild except for you. Go and stop him. But then as soon as you blorple the first cube and go into a random spot, that's all gone until you get to the end and finally figure out what was going on that whole time. But getting all the cubes together, that had almost nothing to do with the main plot of the game while you were playing it, and then at the end you would find out, oh, he needed them in order to make his Tesseract. But you don't know that when you're playing it, right? There's a lot of, not necessarily dramatic irony, that's not it, but there's a lot of just, let's roam around and hope the plot catches up to us in this game. So ultimately, I would probably say it's the weakest of kind of those six. It's still fun. It's hard. It uses big and complicated words, which I don't mind, but that's going to not be fun for people, especially like teenagers or even, earlier teenagers, 10 to 12-year-olds that want to pick up this game and just like, I have no idea what's going on. There's certain words that I just don't understand. Would you even think to label the cubes? Because, I don't know if I would. Stuff like that. But ultimately, I think the humor is almost gone from this game. There's a little bit of humor in the feelies, the physical items. I am happy to see that the physical items were actually pretty important to the game. And if you didn't know didn't know what was in, you didn't have the physical items, it would be a lot harder and you probably wouldn't be able to figure it out. Especially when you got to Belboz and he just asks you a question from the physical items. Don't have it? Oh, well. Hopefully you didn't lose that card. You know what I mean? But ultimately, it is a fun game. Would I recommend it? I would recommend it to people that have played the other games in the Enchanter trilogy and want to see the ending. It's not like it's bad enough to avoid playing, but it wouldn't be my first choice to recommend this game. If you liked Enchanter and you liked Sorcerer and you want to see how it ends, then by all means, play Spellbreaker. Otherwise, there are other Infocom games for you to play. Check out Enchanter and Sorcerer, see if you like those before you try to dive into this one. You need to play them and need to understand how those mechanics work to even start Spellbreaker. And that's my modern take on the game. When the game was released, the game was received well by critics. Although the game was seen as difficult, the conclusion to the Enchanter series was seen as a great ending to the trilogy. Infocom, with another success on their hands, would continue to create video games. We will hear from Infocom again. As for Dave Lebling, he would also continue to create games at Infocom, and we will hear from him again as well. That will do it for the story of Spellbreaker for now. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we go west.